In 1938, 300 miles from Berlin, the halls of Wewelsburg Castle echoed with the ringing of tools. 12 stone pillars are constructed at the edges of a room in the north tower. In the center, a sunwheel mosaic is embedded into the floor in green and gold, onto which converges the light of day from 12 windows. The radial motif is repeated within the sunwheel itself. Arranged in a clockwise pattern, 12 sig runes emerge from a central point. This symbol, the Sonnenrad or Black Sun, has become the de facto emblem of the esoteric or occult strain of post-war National Socialist thought. Unfortunately, speculation around its meaning has inspired a wealth of literature relying more on sensationalism than on substance. Considering the recurrence of the number 12 both in the structure of the Sonnenrad mosaic and that of the room built around it, a discussion of numerology seems a reasonable place to begin. Although a definite medievalist streak looms large over Himmler's remodeling of Wewelsburg Castle, according to SS Obergruppenführer Karl Wolff, the top 12 SS generals that were to meet in the hall represented the 12 Knights of the Round Table, one of the castle's study halls was dubbed König Artus, etc. An Arthurian inspiration is by itself insufficient to explain the number's prominence. For instance, we know that the ancient Greeks worshipped 12 Olympian deities to whom an altar described by Pindar as the navel of the city was dedicated in the Agora of Athens. In Latium, the 12 statues of the De Consentis stood in the Forum in the heart of Rome alongside the Law of the 12 Tables. The Prose Edda states that 12 are the Aesir of the race of gods, and that Odin, the highest and eldest of the Aesir, is known by 12 names. The Norse gods held court atop their 12 seats in Ida Field in the center of Asgard, a realm that was held to be the middle of the world. Furthermore, in the center of Niflheim, beneath the roots of Yggdrasil, lies the spring of Vergelmir, out of which 12 rivers flow, and so on. These are but a few examples of the link within Indo-European mythology between the number 12 and the traditional motif of the world axis. In Wewelsburg Castle's Obergruppenführershall, as in the Roman Forum and Athenian Agora, the number 12 marks a sacred boundary that, owing to its association with the zodiac, projects the circumscribed area outside of time and space. Mircea Eliade explains this process in the following terms. The reality of the site is secured through consecration of the ground, i.e. through its transformation into a center. Naturally, the consecration of the center occurs in a space qualitatively different from profane space. Through the paradox of right, every consecrated space coincides with the center of the world, just as the time of any ritual coincides with the mythical time of the beginning. Clearly, the sunwheel of Wewelsburg Castle cannot be reduced to a mere ornament. When designing the Obergruppenführershall, Himmler was appealing to an ancient and venerable tradition that, as we will continue to show, predates the Arthurian legend by thousands of years. One of the many meanings of the Black Sun, then, is one of totality. As such, its counterpart in sacred geometry is the dodecahedron with its 12 faces, like those of the 12 Olympians and 12 Aesirs, staring into an immovable pitch-black center. The hub of the cosmic wheel, around which the universe rotates like stars across the night sky. Though derailed by the outbreak of war, plans for the construction of an eternal flame placed atop a golden disc in the middle of the sunwheel are attested by the presence of a gas line beneath the room's floor. This mirrors the central fire of Pythagorean astronomy, a hidden or dark sun at the universe's core, of which our yellow sun is but a shadow. Aside from Pythagoras, numerous mystics throughout history have described the faraway reaches of the Godhead as wrapped on all sides in darkness. This darkness is the shroud of an ineffable mystery visible only to the ascetic, who, like Odin, sacrifices his eye so that he may be granted second sight. Dionysius the Areopagite alluded to the same principle when writing that, "By passing beyond everything, yourself included, irresistibly and completely, you will be exalted in pure ecstasy right up to the dark splendor of the divine superessence." Therefore, the Black Sun is so named because, paraphrasing Johannes Tauler, the paths of sense perception will never discover it. Iranian Sufism similarly refers to the divine night, a black light that is the source and origin of all light. For example, in the Rose Garden of Mystery, a 14th century Persian text, it is said that the black color is light of pure ipseity. Within this darkness is the water of life. Ipseity, synonymous here with Meister Eckhart's concept of istigkeit or selfness, is the Atma, what remains of our being when all that is anatta, or not I, is dissolved. As mentioned in the Rose Garden of Mystery, the divine night is not an end in itself, but a threshold that must be crossed before one can drink the water of life. Avicenna tells us that perpetual darkness surrounds the pole, unpenetrated by any ray of light. But he who fearlessly enters this darkness will emerge into a clearly lighted plain, where he will find this springing fountain. A polar region concealed in perpetual darkness is equivalent to the motif of the inaccessible or hidden land that surfaces in countless Indo-European traditions, otherwise known as Hyperborea. There, behind a veil of obscurity, reigns Yima, the first man, over a city of pure, uncreated light, and where, according to the Avesta, the green never fades, and the golden age never ends. A common initiatic theme in many mystery religions of antiquity related to the image of black light is that of the midnight sun. After being initiated into the cult of Isis, Apuleius declared, "Accessi confinium mortis, nocte media vidi solem coruscantem lumine," meaning, I approached the boundaries of death. At midnight I saw the sun shining with its brilliant light. Here, the boundary of death is the selfsame darkness that, for Avicenna, envelops the polar paradise and shields it from decay. By crossing this threshold, by successfully navigating this supernal obscurity, one becomes Dvija, twice born. The 12 rays of the black sun are visible to them alone. When, in his recital of the Occidental exile, Ibn Suhrawardi speaks of being brought back to life after being cut into pieces, he is alluding to this same second birth. His vision of a sun rising at the edge of darkness announces an inner illumination, pointing the way to the wilderness in the mountains, another clear symbol of centrality. Najim Kobra, another medieval Persian mystic, describes the journey to the pole with the chromatic language of the Hermetic tradition, associating each step of the soul's return with a specific color, witnessing first a darkness of natural existence, then a fiery light, then the green light of the heart. As the symbol of the first stage of the alchemical magnum opus, the black sun, or Sol Niger, is associated with putrefaction or calcination, and signifies the destruction of the physical body. We have already spoken of the link between initiatory death, often expressed in terms of ritual dismemberment, and the color black. In contrast, Kobra's fiery or red light recalls the appearance of Apuleius' midnight sun and signals the completion of the Hermetic great work. For Suhrawardi as well, beyond the divine night, at the summit of the cosmic mountain, i.e. the mythical pole, where heaven and earth meet, stands the Emerald Rock. This gem's color is associated with Hyperborea, the land of eternal spring where, as per the Avesta, the green never fades. Even the Book of Revelation associates, in no uncertain terms, this color with the mythical center. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. It also bears repeating that the sun wheel mosaic in Wewelsburg Castle is not actually black, but green. In Suhrawardi's Book of Elucidations, Hermes witnesses the Pillar of Dawn, the midnight sun, bursting forth from its nocturnal tomb, whereupon a voice orders him to seize hold of the cable of the ray of light and rise to the battlements of the throne. He ascended until, we are told, both heaven and earth were beneath his feet. Here the meaning of Hermes' ascent should be obvious. In referring to a region above heaven and earth, we're dealing with the absolute transcendence of being and non-being alike, the pure unconditioned state or nirvana of the Buddhists, that is the apex of Aryan spiritual practice. As mentioned earlier, the color scheme, and indeed the imagery itself, evoked by the Persian Sufis in the mystical accounts of their journey to the pole, can be traced back to the Hermetic tradition. However, less well known is the connection between Sufi mysticism, esoteric alchemy, the Hyperborean mythos, and the Egyptian Amduat. The idea, which we have referenced multiple times in this text, that the black sun is a sort of gateway to a central luminous region, is found nowhere more explicitly than in the Egyptian funerary texts. Chiseled into the tombs of kings, they served a magical purpose, that of ensuring the safe passage of the deceased pharaoh, the embodiment of the sun god Ra, through the underworld. When the declining Ra enters through the western door, like Suhrawardi's Occidental exile, he does so as an old man. When he returns to the field of offerings in the east, he is rejuvenated. In between, he must travel through 12 caves, symbolizing the 12 hours of the night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. In the 12th cave, 12 goddesses, 6 on each side, surround a child, heralding the sun god's imminent rise. Upon entering the thick darkness, Ra is bound to the material sun which he represents, obliged to follow its nocturnal trajectory. Yet he emerges from the underworld at the 12th hour, having defeated time as a being of pure, uncreated light. In the meantime, however, he must undergo a series of trials of the Orphic type. At the 4th hour, Ra enters Rosatau, the tomb of Osiris, amidst the deepest darkness and silence. The exit is blocked by doors like knives, a familiar initiatory motif known as the Dangerous Passage. Ra enters the Black Sun and begins his fusion with Osiris, the Living One, an identification that will ultimately enable him to traverse the Death Chamber. Of the nature of this chamber, a spell that forms part of the so-called coffin texts relates the following. This is the sealed thing which is in darkness, with fire about it, which contains the efflux of Osiris, and it is put in Rosatau. It has been hidden since it fell from him, and it is what has come down from him onto the desert of sand. Considering that Osiris, the green-skinned god of the afterlife, is associated with natural and supernatural rebirth, there is a striking similarity between the location of the efflux of Osiris according to the coffin texts and that of the water of life which, as mentioned in the Persian Rose Garden of Mystery, is also concealed within darkness. Notice also that the above-mentioned spell contains the exact black-red-green color scheme utilized by Cobra and Suhrawardi in describing their ecstatic journey to the center. A second trial, similar to the Hall of Knives of the 4th hour, is found in the 5th cave. Ra must navigate a subterranean lake, the contents of which appear simultaneously as a soothing tonic to the just and impassable flames to the heavy-hearted. This, of course, is reminiscent of the dual properties ascribed to the Holy Grail and countless other analogous objects in the Hyperborean mythos. Those who cling to what is anatta are obliterated, for the water to those who are in the necropolis is fire. Interestingly, in Heracles' 6th labor, the midpoint of his trials, an analogous scene is presented. In his quest to slay the Stymphalian birds, the fabled hero is unable to cross a treacherous swamp, sinking further with every step due to his own weight. The meaning of this heaviness should be fairly clear. By means of a magic rattle, a gift from the deathless Athena, Heracles draws the steel-winged birds from their lair and slays them with arrows, symbolic, as is the rattle, of shamanic flight and of leaving the body. Note the similarity in passing between a flurry of birds with sharp wings and the Hall of Knives of the Duat. In the 6th cave of the underworld, in other words, at midnight, the fusion of the souls of Ra and Osiris is complete. Noon, the primordial ocean from whence all waters come, washes away all distinctions between light and darkness, and those between the beginning and the end of the solar cycle, the superposition of which is symbolized by the appearance of the midnight sun. Ra crosses the boundaries of death by being dismembered by proxy through his identification with Osiris, the one who was ritually cut into pieces the first time. The Black Sun is then inundated by the Green Ray, the efflux of the green-skinned god, and, seizing hold of its cables like Hermes, it begins its ascent towards the eastern horizon. A spell from the Kophic texts relates, in unambiguous terms, the effects of the Emerald Vision, the Green Ray of the Persian Sufis, on those who witness it. He who sees the dead Osiris will never die. Panning out, it is revealed that all along, the 12 caves of the Duat were merely segments of the great snake Ouroboros, the world encircler. The voyage from the western to the eastern door is made circular as the snake coils up on itself, At the point where its tail meets its mouth, heaven and earth collide and a gateway to the pole is opened. Ra's triumphant passage through the 12 caves mirrors the 12 victories of Heracles and those of the Buddha who, having transcended the 12 Nidana, escape from the circle of life and death. To the Occidental exile traveling through an increasingly unfamiliar landscape, the essence of the Black Sun, the sealed thing which is in darkness, is a promise of escape from the burning, shifting sands. His journey to the center is fraught with peril. Before reaching the Emerald Isle, he must first traverse a black ocean, past the wrecks of 1,000 ships. At midnight, a lighthouse guides another boat ashore and disappears. Once again, perpetual darkness covers the pole.